Hi everyone, my name is Kimberly Banfield, for those of you that know me and those of you that don't, and I am a soul purpose expert. And as most of you would be aware, I am super interested and excited about all things mind-body connection, intuition and soul purpose and spiritual woo-woo type things. And I love diving deep underneath the surface with other people around these sorts of things as well. So my special guest today is a wonderful woman called Jennifer Yao, and her and I have known each other for a few years now, and we're both interested in the same things in this space. So what I'm thinking is that we're going to have a very spirited conversation today about things associated with the mind-body connection, about really interesting, cool things around Jennifer's near-death experience that she had when she was a kid and the impact that had on her life and her understanding of mind-body connection, and all sorts of other things as well. So I'd like now to introduce you to Jennifer Yao. Welcome.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks for having me. Oh, you're welcome. It's so lovely to have you here. I'm very excited to talk with you today. Why don't you just start off with, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a pain and emotional release expert with a background in Chinese medicine, kinesiology, energy healing, and massage. And I love working with people to get them reconnected and re-energized, revitalized, so they can step in their soul power and live more authentically.
Which is such a big thing these days. I think so many of us wear so many masks and cover up the pain that we experience in our lives that we tend to forget who we are and we get so disconnected.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's very true.
Yeah. So then tell me then, what led to the work that you do today?
I feel that all of the experiences I've had in my life thus far, and my childhood and spiritual experiences, from my education to practice and just life experiences, it's all contributed to my work.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that, because then you can see that there's this clear journey. Once, of course, you understand how it's all connected. There's this clear journey that takes you from like point A to point B, like where you were to where you are now, and everything tends to make sense. So I'm really interested to know then how your childhood contributed to you doing this work.
I think at the early age of 5, I had a near-death experience, which really made me, question spirituality and everything. And it made me realize that, we are these beings inside this body. And so it made me question things like, what happens when we die? Why do we even have a body? And I question tradition and things like that, because I did grow up in a traditional Chinese family. I was born in China, and there was lots of customs and traditions, and I wondered about that. Because I grew up in a traditional Chinese household, like feelings weren't talked about, and we were expected to be obedient. We were supposed to listen to what we're, told to do, and so we really was not able to express how we feel or anything like that, or behave outside of what was expected of us. So because of that, I just learned to not be emotional, and I learned that from my mom, because she was unable to express, her own emotions. But I learned the importance of emotions from her. That that pain can be created in the body, if we suppress what we're feeling.
Yeah, because I guess that pain, like that emotion has to go somewhere, and if it's not being expressed outwards, then it's going to be contained inwards, which means it's going to, like, it's like a buildup of something, whether it's energy or like an actual physical manifestation buildup in terms of, an injury or an illness or, a disease or something like that. It's got to go somewhere, and if it's not out, then it's in, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I was a very intuitive kid because I got people and I just knew things about them without them telling me. And when family members would die, I would get messages from them in dreams, and I would have premonition dreams. But a lot of that, who I really was just closed down because I shut it down because it was deemed kind of weird, right? And especially for my mom, you can't talk to spirits, So I just got that it was not a good thing. So I shut my intuition down, disconnected to who I was, and to think back, I had a lot of health issues, especially with my lungs and frequent coughing and everything. And now I realize why I was sick. It's because I was so disconnected with who I really was and what I was feeling. So
yes, and as you and I both know, the lungs are often about grief. And,
exactly.
Being separate from yourself. So if you're feeling that way, then it's likely that you will develop some sort of, whether it be, frequent coughing or chest related issues, or even take up smoking, and things like that, because the grief hasn't been expressed. And I would imagine that the grief probably had something to do with that not being able to be yourself, so that the grief associated with kind of pushing yourself to the side because your intuition wasn't being honored or even believed. And I wonder though, like, did that happen? Like, did you shut your intuition down pre near-death experience or post that?
It was post.
Yep.
It was a little bit later. Yeah.
Yep. So were you intuitive before the near-death experience, or did that open up as a result of that, or did it just change because of that?
Was I interested in, what was that?
Were you intuitive before the near-death experience, or was that something that came as a result of that?
I would say that I was actually intuitive still before and after, but as I grew older and was more expressive of what I was experiencing, I learned to shut it down because people had opinions about that.
Yes, they do. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people who are intuitive and perhaps aren't as open with their gifts or aren't as comfortable with their gifts these days can certainly sympathize with that, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
I often think that most kids are born intuitive. I think babies are born intuitive, but from our environment teaches us to shut it down, so.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on that, for sure. So at what point then did your training and your experience come together?
I would say about 10 years ago, after divorce and finishing up my master's degree in traditional Chinese medicine, I really realized the power of the mind-body connection, because from having to heal from my own pain and getting back into health and well-being, because it was a really hard time for me. And after the training, I pieced together why I was sick as a child, and why I developed back pain during the marriage, and really started to understand what I was doing in my life affected my health.
Yeah. And was that a relief for you?
What's that?
Was that a relief for you?
A release?
A relief. Like, were you, like pleased to know that, this actually has a meaning?
Oh, yes, for sure. And that, it helped me to be more responsible for my own health as well.
Right.
Like, I created this. This is not happening to me, but I'm actually creating this in my life. And so that helped me to really stand in my power and create the health and the life that I want,
I love that you just said that, because that piece is so key. Like, one of my favorite sayings is that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And,
right.
I like to reflect back on my life, where if I was to interpret the trauma that I've experienced in my life as something that happened to me, life would suck a lot right now, if that was the case.
Right.
However, when they happen for you, you start to understand that even though, yes, they still suck, like, it doesn't take the suckiness out of it. However, it opens up this world of possibility where it's like, I wonder what this experience was opening up in me and for me and creating in my life that I wouldn't have otherwise had access to or understood, which is now important in my life in this moment, in this way.
Right. Exactly.
And responsibility.
Totally agree.
So important.
Yes. And it's empowering to know that you are the one responsible, right? Because you have the power to change.
Yes.
So.
And I'll say here in that space too, that it's important to distinguish between, you're not responsible for the event, but you are responsible for your response to it. So we're not saying, take on the responsibility for either the other person or people or situation involved. We're only talking about you and ways in which you can empower yourself around what the experience is giving to you from a, I guess, a blessing perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So how important would you say that emotions are to you now?
To me, emotions are like the breath, every breath you take, because it's that important. Because if I'm not feeling, then, I don't feel alive or awake or in touch with myself, because I think that's what feelings are meant for, right? They're there to teach us something. It's there to help me, and it's not something that I need to run from. And emotions allow me to know whether I'm aligned with something or not, or if something is right for me or not. Emotions to me it's kind of like another way of your intuition letting you know something, right? Because how many times have I know that it's happened to me, if I felt a certain thing about something and I didn't listen or honor that, and I still proceeded to go forth something that didn't feel good, it would transpire into something bad, right? It would not work out. And if I continue on with it, then suddenly I might wake up with neck pain or something.
Why? Because whatever it is that you're doing is a pain in the neck.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I think that's one of the cool things about pain and so on, is there's so many language associations that we say all the time, but we never actually, or rarely do we make that link between that mind-body connection, where it's like, okay, well, if you've got neck pain, something or someone is a pain in your neck. If you've got
Right.
back pain, then it's likely, you know, the back is about support and having a backbone, like being able to stand up for yourself. If it's about being stabbed in the back, you know, all of those sorts of things that we use every day, like carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, you know, headache, it's like something is stuck in your head. All of these sorts of things, like we say them all the time, just in passing, passive language. And yet, if we stop and appreciate the link and the connection between those things, we can get and understand so much more at a deeper level, so much faster.
Exactly. Just trusting that, and knowing that your body is always speaking to you. You know, there's no coincidences. You're communicating with you all the time. It's whether you choose to listen or not, right?
And two of those languages are, you know, emotion and pain, and they can extend further into, you know, injury, illness, and disease, and a whole bunch of other things as well. But generally, it will start with, you know, emotion and pain.
Right.
Sometimes at the same time. So in your practice then, what are the types of patterns that you see with people?
I think a common pattern that I see is that people are disconnected. There's too much information out there, and most people want scientific proof, but yet they don't trust themselves enough to know like what's actually right for them. And with this information age, people are just, I feel, are more lost because they're not looking at the root of their pain and often just want a quick fix. I think also they don't know where to turn. I'm always surprised when people even people who have gotten like acupuncture come to me and ask, and I'll explain to them, you know, what I'm going to do. And they're like, what is a meridian? And so I just see that people don't know much about how their bodies actually work. And I think that's a major thing that I see with people.
Right. And I guess having that, I mean, it's not something that we're taught in school, you know, so I guess it's not uncommon for people to not understand things like meridians, which, you know, if anyone is watching and they don't know what meridians are, they're like the energy channels of the body. They carry chi. I guess that's probably the most simplest explanation for a meridian. But it's often something that has a significant impact on your level of connection to yourself, and also how you feel about yourself as well, because it probably means that you're not fully present in your body either.
Right.
Exactly. So what are some of the motivating factors of your work?
It really lights me up when I can get a person to just cross over and see the other side and see the potential and change and see what's possible for their health and well-being. I mean, I like it when people realize that they're in the driver's seat and that they have the power to shift their health and well-being.
Yeah. And is there like a quick little example that you might be able to share with us in that space of someone that you've watched go through that transformation?
Like someone who I've worked with. I worked with a woman who was she had like 5 businesses, lots going on, you know, caretaking her elderly mom. So she was under a lot of stress, and she had a lot of anger in her, and that was, it was coming up through her mouth. The doctors thought that she had candida, like her whole entire mouth area was red. And they thought it was flush, they thought nothing was working. So we went through a series of sessions. I had her even after the first session, she like released all this anger that was in her body, and she felt immediately better. And little by little, her mouth started getting better. And now she's way better now. I mean, her approach has shifted too. Like, she was like, I never thought that I was creating this and that. So she started to just use tools that I gave her, and now, she's like a different person. So
Wow.
that was a good example of that. But
thank you for sharing that. It's so cool to hear, like, just the way in which, whether it's, traditional Chinese medicine or other forms of for want of a better phrase, alternative healing, which is not really alternative at all. It's more going back to, the way people have always healed, ancient healing, I suppose. It's really wonderful to see how that level of understanding can bring about that, like, such a significant change in someone, but also to empower them as well. Because I know that, one of the disadvantages that's said about, the medical model is they often feel like it's a disempowering model, and that's not just, true for all things, but certainly sometimes, that is the case. And to have that realization that, the anger is something that, she's holding in, and as a result of that is creating all of these things in her mouth. It's like, clearly it needs to be expressed, and it wants to be expressed because it's making this area red, so it's trying to get out. If you're not actually seeing that, then it will grow and develop into something further.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. She was traveling a little bit while we were doing these sessions, so we were able to also do some remote healing, which she experienced. And she was very surprised that we were able to do that. So
yes, actually, I want to talk to you about that, because remote healing is something that I'm very interested in. Being a Reiki master and practicing that, myself. Certainly, between Canada and Australia and so on. How did you actually get into that?
About 5 years ago, someone dear to me was in a coma, and he had gone under a coma because of loss of blood or whatnot, and he was being assisted with breathing and everything, and I couldn't reach him. He was traveling internationally, and so I just thought, I'm able to connect with spirit, so what, if we're all spirits, why not try to connect with him and see how he's doing? And I was a little shocked. I don't know why, but I was able to connect with him, and basically this really opened my mind up to the possibility of remote healing, because I spoke to him while he was in the coma, and I told him that they're going to pull the plug if you don't wake up soon. And like a couple of days later, he woke, and the person with him said, oh yeah, he remembers the connection and all that. And that was like an eye-opener for me. But since that time, I would check in and just see how he's doing health-wise, and I would do remote healing on him, and he would say that he would feel things when I'm doing it. And so that's how I started practicing remote healing, because that is how the remote healing door opened for me, through the practice of doing the healing with my friend. So
that story gives me tingles every time I hear it. That story gives me tingles like every time I hear it. And it's one of those things that I'm sure like other people listening to this will have felt those tingles as well, where it's like, oh yeah, that totally feels like spiritual and woo-woo, but yet so deeply grounded at the same time.
Right. I mean, there's so many times where the doctors would say, oh, you know, his time is limited. But then I would do the remote healing and his vitals would take a turn and he would get better. So that was affirming for me, you know, that, okay,
Absolutely.
this works.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only
This energy stuff is real.
yeah. I know. Thought, right? And not only that, like the people on the other end are aware of that too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I want to ask you then, like in the context of all of the things that we've talked about, what's your mission?
My mission, I want to help raise the vibrational frequency of this planet by helping people heal themselves. I mean, people need to know that their bodies, when in balance, vibrates at its optimal frequencies, which vibrates, you know, at the same level as the earth, you know. I mean, because did you know that the heart chakra, when balance, has the same vibrational frequency as the earth's core? I mean, not sure that a lot of people know that. And I think that's why, I think that's why the earth is kind of sick, because people are not well.
Yes.
Optimal, right? And so when we're talking about higher consciousness, the reason why we need to heal is because we want to heal the earth as well. So we're not separate, right? We're all connected.
Yeah, and I just had that saying pop into my mind where it's like your outer world reflects your inner world, and if our outer world is earth, like if our outer world extends beyond, you know, our homes and our neighborhoods and what have you, if it extends to the earth, which of course it does,
right.
Then as you say, like there's so much unwellness in the world today, like whether it's, you know, people having like a lack of self-belief in themselves or being physically ill or whatever it might be. And so I really resonate with your mission around, you know, helping to raise the vibrational frequency of the planet through helping people to heal themselves and re-empowering them to take responsibility and to get back in touch with their emotions and to realize that pain is not there to piss you off, although of course, you know, granted it does that. It's not there to stop you. It's there to actually connect you back to something that you're not connected to right now. And it wants you to be connected, otherwise the pain wouldn't be showing up. It's just reflecting the pain that you're experiencing because you're not connected to that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So just that most of us blame it on, you know, something else. Oh, I sat wrong in my chair at work all day, or I lifted wrongly at the gym, or whatever it might be. And it's like, and that might be based on the surface, but it's trying to get your attention about something that's going on much deeper.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like also, you know, there's some truth to it, but I mean, the body's already blocked from you being disconnected from those emotions or those things that you're ignoring. And so when you go and do something extra like lifting, it's just gonna push it over, right?
Yeah. It's like, pay attention to me.
Like, listen, I'm gonna speak louder until you hear me.
It's like, you know, a child who's not being listened to and really wants to be heard, and they just get either louder in frequency or they get, you know, like more pushy towards you.
Yeah, exactly. The nagging.
Yeah.
Doesn't stop.
As much as you adore them, you're like, come on.
Right.
So when did you realize how important this mission is, like not only to you but to the planet?
When my friend Duval passed away, I saw him in spirit, and you know, the first thing I noticed was his energy was a little dim, and he was a really good person. He was a family man and took care of his parents and wife and kids, but he just lived a pretty simple life. He just worked and took care of the family. So I always thought that good people just become this, magnificent rays of light, when they pass away, but that's not true. I realized at that point that that how you vibrate when you're alive is how you're going to be vibrating when you die, right? So if people don't nurture their energy bodies, it just remains the same, because you feed what you put your attention to. If you don't realize it's there, and then you don't nurture that, then how does it vibrate at a higher frequency? If you don't know that you're just this huge potential of electrical thing, right? Then how do you go about honing in on that? And it's why, like, Buddhist monks meditate and do all they do all day long, because they want to reach enlightenment. They know the power that they have. They know the power of the potential that they have, and they're fully aware of what their bodies are capable of. That's when I realized raising a higher consciousness is very important. It's important to know, that they have this potential.
Yes. And there's a lot of research, especially like these days, around, the way in which meditation in particular helps to raise the frequency of the planet. And, it's gradually been increasing over time now, and it's at the highest levels that it's ever been at when it comes to, levels of consciousness in the universe. So your mission ties in so very sweetly with that. Yep.
I remember listening to Carolyn Mays.
Yep.
She says, she says that why are we, even though we are raising more consciousness on the planet, but why are people still so sick? Why are people not healing as fast as they should if consciousness is higher? And that has to go back to self-responsibility. People taking responsibility for themselves.
Yep.
Because, right, you can't really do all that much out here if you yourself hasn't healed yet. So.
Yeah, and I just had this interesting image pop into my field, I suppose, where, and it relates to what you just said about, Carolyn Mason and why are we still getting sicker as a general population. And it's like, well, we can be, like, responsibility goes both ways, right? So we can be responsible for ourselves and do our own healing and so on. But if we're still doing those elements where, we're just throwing rubbish out the window, or we're, leaving stuff on the beach or whatever it might be, it's like, well, we're not actually taking responsibility on both sides, like internally and externally. So whilst we might be healing ourselves on the inside and taking responsibility for our wellness there, we're not taking responsibility, externally. And it's the first time I've ever actually thought of it in this way. So thank you for this insight that's just occurred. If we're still doing that, then all of those things that are outside are then coming back into us. So the cycle is still out of whack in terms of that responsibility and that wellness feeding wellness, rather than wellness feeding unwellness, which still creates lower levels of wellness.
Right.
That was like a mind-blowing moment for me,
for a second.
Just going to integrate and digest that a little bit.
I
think that was very cool, and I'm now even more deeply committed to. I've actually just gone out and bought. This is like a major side step, but we can do that. I've just gone out and bought, things so I can decrease the amount of plastic that we use at home and also when we're out. So I've gone and bought beeswax paper to wrap things up in the fridge, and bags, reusable bags that I think are made from bamboo or something like that you can take to the supermarket and put your fruit and vegetables in before you take them to the counter, so you don't have to use plastic bags. And that's just made me feel even more committed to using those rather than just like throwing them in the car and forgetting that they exist, or going, that's okay, I won't go out to the car and I'll just use plastic bags next time. It's like, no, like I'm actually going to use them because I've just figured out this piece around actually responsibility goes both ways. And if I'm going to be responsible for this, then it's important for me to also be responsible to this.
Right. You said that perfectly.
Thank you. So I know that you run workshops. I know that you run them locally, and fingers crossed, hopefully you'll be running some in the online soon for those of us who'll be watching that are not neighborly to you, although by all means, please fly in and see her. She is amazing. Why don't you tell us where you're located and what the purpose of your workshops are?
I'm in San Francisco Bay Area, and the workshops are pieces of a 12-week program that I created. And the purpose is to educate people on how their bodies work, on an energetic, emotional, psychological, all the other stuff that are connected to the physical. Because it is only a small portion of who we are. So I introduce them to the basics of energy anatomy, and I also give them some tools on how their energetic, emotional, and mental aspects work, and how to connect with that, and how to attune to their energetic body. Because the body can heal itself, you just need to know how to get to that state, right?
Yes, and like how to connect into it, like especially if you're only just starting to redo that, it can feel very daunting to begin with. So these workshops sound like a beautiful place to begin or renew that practice in connecting to you, but also understanding the messages that your body is trying to tell you.
Right. Exactly.
So good. Please tell me you're going to run them online.
Oh, maybe.
I hope so. So where can people find you if they want to know more information, either about workshops in the Bay Area of San Francisco, and or they want to say, yes, Jennifer, please run them online? Where is the best place to get in touch with you?
So my website is jenniferyao.com. That's probably the best place. Where I'm on Instagram, Awaken Heart Soul, and then I'm also on Facebook. So either works.
And what we'll do is we'll put the links in the comment section of our Facebook post, and also, wherever we end up posting this video to be hosted, we'll put the links in the comments there as well. So all people have to do is just, click through and connect with you that way.
Perfect.
So before we wrap this up, is there anything, like any last pieces of advice or insights, inspiration that you want to give to people listening?
No, I wanted to say that my next workshop is coming up. It's a one-day workshop. July 21st. It'll be in San Francisco. Yep. So if you are interested, please do connect with me.
So July 21, 2019. And do you have a location for that?
Yes, it's in San Francisco, 401 32nd Avenue in San Francisco.
Cool. So those of you local to the Bay Area, make sure you get in touch with Jennifer so you can go along to that workshop. And those of you who aren't, make sure you get in touch with her so that she can run them online as well. I'm planting some seeds. I want you to run them online. People need to know about this, and I'm sure after today's conversation, they are, even if they weren't already, much more incredibly interested in understanding that mind-body connection with themselves, but also, hearing more about the stories that you shared with us today around how you got to here, because it's a fascinating way in which our life experience plays out in bringing us, to this point of our soul purpose. And yeah, I'm so pleased that we were able to chat today.
Well, thank you, Kim. You're amazing.
As are you, my dear. Thank you so much for your time, and everyone, please get in touch with Jennifer and attend her workshop. Thanks very much, Jennifer.
Thank you.